Yesterday, we spent some time identifying plot elements. We even talked about the three main ones that we are going to be discussing moving forward. We are going to be focusing on the introduction, the climax, and the resolution. Now, the reason for focusing on this is because we are going to use these elements, specifically the conflict, the climax, and the resolution, to capture the main idea of the story effectively. We're not going to include any minor details. So again, it's just the climax, and the resolution. When writing a summary, we want to make sure we start out with the basics, the main characters. Then we're going to briefly talk about the conflict, highlight the climax, and then we're going to end it with the resolution. We're going to keep it short and simple. Remember, a summary should be shorter than the original story, meant to focus on the main points and avoid any unnecessary details. So, this kind of goes along with our new little phrase, keep it short and simple. Take a moment and review the three main points that we are going to be using in the plot elements. We are focusing on the introduction, the climax, and the resolution. At this point as well, if you would like to pause the video, go get a copy of the notes for today, as you will be able to follow along with the lost puppy as I am highlighting and labeling the conflict, climax, and resolution in the paper. You will be able to follow along on this one, so make sure you go grab the paper. Yesterday, we read the story about Alex and Max, the lost puppy. Remember, we said that in the introduction, the who was the young boy Alex and Max. They were in a neighborhood, maybe even a neighborhood park on a sunny afternoon. And the problem or the conflict was that Max ran away chasing a squirrel. And we identified the climax of the story is where Alex hears Max barking and finds him in a hole. And the resolution or the conclusion is Alex and Max are happy together again, and Alex promises to not separate from him again. So, again, we're using these 3 points to talk about a summary. And remember, the summary of a story focuses on the key plot elements, specifically the conflict, the climax, and the resolution, which is what we've just talked about. If you notice, this slide has the question, what is the best summary of the story? And I've repeated it again. We're looking at the conflict, the climax, and the resolution. So we're looking for these 3 things in our answers. And if you notice down below, we have a multiple choice. We are going to go through each one of these and identify the pieces to see, does it have the conflict, the climax, and the resolution? Let's read A. In The Lost Puppy, Alex's puppy Max runs away while chasing a squirrel, and after searching for him, Alex discovers Max is stuck in a hole. Well, I noticed that we have the conflict where Max runs away, so I want you to pay attention to that. And then after searching for him, that's kind of a minor detail, so that's too much information. And then Alex discovers Max stuck in a hole. This is the climax. But did this answer choice include the resolution? It did not. So I'm going to say that A is not my answer, but let's take a look at B. B says, in The Lost Puppy, Alex loves his puppy Max more than anything. But when Max goes missing, Alex feels hopeless until he hears a bark. Now, Alex does love his puppy more than anything, but is that our conflict, our climax, and our resolution? It is not. So that already tells me that that's extra information. So I'm going to go ahead and say that B is not my answer. C says, the lost puppy, Alex's love for the puppy Max, is tested when Max runs off chasing a squirrel. But after a desperate search, Alex finds and rescues him, promising to keep a closer eye on him in the future. So we have Alex's love for the puppy Max is tested when Max runs off. When Max runs off is the climax. So we do have our climax. But after a desperate search, Alex finds and rescues Max. Yes, he does find him in a hole and rescues him. And then he promises to keep a closer eye on him in the future. He promises to never separate again. So that's our resolution. So I do see that C does have our conflict, our climax, and our resolution. But just in case, let's read D as well and see if it has all the pieces too, because our question does say the best summary. So we're looking for the one that fits that checks all of our boxes. It has the climax, the conflict, and the resolution. But what happens if there's more than once? Let's just make sure that D doesn't have more than once. D says, in The Lost Puppy, Alex is heartbroken when his puppy Max disappears during a sunny afternoon, and he is relieved to find Max safely after a long search. Well, he is heartbroken. That is a detail, but is that our conflict? Max disappears during a sunny afternoon. Well, that's our conflict. So we can label that the conflict. He is relieved to find Max safely after a long search. Well, he finds him safely in a hole and then has to get him out of the hole. So that's just kind of extra information. I'm going to say that D is not our answer either, because even though it's got a piece, it doesn't have all the pieces. Remember, it has to have the conflict, the climax, and the resolution. After reading and labeling my answer choices, I see that A has the conflict and climax, but does not have my resolution. I see that B has my conflict and climax, but doesn't have my resolution. C has the conflict, climax, and resolution. So I think C is my answer because D only has the conflict. So I'm going to go ahead and circle C. Now it is your turn.
If you
After watching the video, I hope that you noticed that I labeled the conflict, the climax, and the resolution in my answer choices.
You and your table group will work together.
If you will look on your note page, you will see that on the back you have a surprise party.
Now
this is the story that you read yesterday. It also has
turn your note page over, you will see
plot
that
diagram
there
that was created yesterday.
Paragraphs
You're going to use that to make sure
you
and
your
identify
table
an A, B, C, and D. Identify the conflict, the climax, and the resolution in those, and then go ahead and choose the answer that includes all three elements that we're looking for.
If you turn your note page over,